Hello and welcome to week 2 of our Redcat RDS build series. In this week's episode, we make some aesthetic improvements to our stock body with some calculated cuts and installation of a custom-made set of vents. Then we will tear into our drivetrain and install a new differential, bringing our competition chassis to the next level of performance. We'll wrap up this week's episode talking about some parts that offer cross-compatibility and could breathe some fresh life into your RDS. Make sure you stick around and drop us a comment below. So after a few weeks of deliberation on which direction to go with the aesthetics of our stock body, I jumped into Tinkercad and started a new document. While it is caveman-esque, I've used it for so long and I know I am comfortable navigating its features and trust what I come up with will translate well to my tried and true Ender 3. On the finest settings, this print finished for me in just under an hour and measured out dead on with my design. Next, I took the base shape of the vent and traveled into my Adobe Illustrator program. You could do the same in Microsoft Paint or any program that allows you to generate shapes. I printed my shape out onto a piece of paper and rough cut out around, leaving it ample room to install the cut template with some calculated pieces of masking tape. With your shape scored into the hood, I next took my body reamer and I make a hole in the middle of the shape. Next I'll use my Lexan scissors and I'll cut a channel to each of the corners of my shape, in this case 4 cuts and one in the middle as a relief cut. Now I can simply bend and snap my pieces away, leaving a clean and tidy opening wherever I choose. I use this technique a lot for vented or rolled down windows, front bumper ducts, trunk vents, or anything requiring a precise cut. Next, I roughed in my vent to ensure that the cutout was going to fit everything properly. I needed one little piece adjusted here in the corner that didn't quite cleanly break away. An easy fix with a sharp X-Acto blade. Looking good. I think this'll work. All of the holes are mirrored side to side in the printed design, so I was able to flip the vents and put them moving inward. That held them in place enough to mark my first spot to drill a hole. I marked the spot by inserting the drill bit and twisting back and forth a couple times. With my spot clearly marked, I begin to drill the hole out entirely. I will ensure that this hole is cleanly drilled, and then I'll install one screw to hold the vents in place while I mark the spots to drill the remaining holes. With my holes drilled, I'll pre-install all of my hardware to make installation that much easier. Sometimes I wish I had 3 hands. I like to make the screw protrude just enough through the surface so it can grab onto the hole in which it's being screwed into. This helps me aim the vents or whatever object I'm mounting with my scale hardware. When you have it all lined up, send that screw home and wrap up these vents. Turning our attention to the rear of the car, we're going to remove this bottom 1/3 of the rear window. See a lot of 1/1 scale drift cars doing the same thing. My hope is this will generate some airflow around the motor can, as it is definitely getting warm after hot lapping full batteries through it. The added bonus will be easy access to toggle our on and off switch, as it's kind of a pain to take the body off to do so. We utilize the same process to remove the rear 1/3 window as we did for the hood vent, so take your time and make sure it looks the part. The end result is both pleasing to look at and very functional. All in all, week 2 is looking pretty good. Now, let's get our car driving as good as it's looking. This week we're going to install one of these Rhino Racing CLSD differentials into our Redcat RDS. Now I opted to remove the entire transmission so I could verify that these parts fit correctly, However, you should be able to just remove the quick change differential housing cover and your ESC plate to have access to your diff. Quick change diffs are quickly becoming an industry standard. Does your chassis have one? Leave a comment below. Next, we grab our digital caliper and measure our stock differential from race to race. Our measurement was 24.5 millimeters. Our first measurement of the Rhino diff was too wide with the stock bearings, so we opted to switch them from a 15 by 10 by 4 to a 15 by 10 by 3. That left us with 23.94 as an overall measurement. Plenty of room to squeeze into the diff case of the RDS. Upon initial assembly, I noticed some side-to-side play in the differential, so we need to take this back apart and add some shims to remove any of that side-to-side play. I ended up using a little over 0.5 millimeter of shims on each side of the diff to remove the side-to-side slop. Then, just button up your diff case, reinstall your ESC plate, and you're good to go. To wrap up today's video, let's talk about some parts that are showing cross-compatibility with the Redcat RDS chassis. So far, we've had great luck retrofitting mini Yokomo parts into our chassis, including cream O-rings in the dampers, these Reve-D arms, and even that Rhino Racing diff. Having cross-compatibility with these parts and components from chassis that already exist means that the aftermarket is already alive, and it's up to you to go find what your car demands.